Hi guys, and welcome to another video lesson. Today we're going to be taking a look at some creative eighth note fills. Before we get started, I need to own up that I've actually borrowed / outright stolen these ideas from a rhythm magazine article by Jason Bold. I literally stumbled across this not very long ago, going through some of my different video lessons, different rhythm magazines, of which I have many, and I came across this really cool article written by Jason about being more creative with eighth notes in fills. So I've taken a couple of ideas and I've tweaked a few bits from that original rhythm magazine article, and that's what we're going to look at today. We're going to look at two fills in particular. These fills use a number of different ideas. They cram an awful lot into the space of just 8 notes or 1 bar. We've got some linear stuff going on, and we've got some unison notes going on, and some reorchestration around the kit as well. If you're not familiar with any of those terms, reorchestration, very fancy way of saying moving stuff around. Think of the drum kit as your own mini orchestra. Reorchestration is putting something somewhere else. So if I'm playing on the snare drum and then I move to tom 3, I have reorchestrated it. Yes, very big, very fancy, possibly unnecessary word that literally means move. What was the other ones we said? We said unison notes. That's where we play more than one thing at once. So it could be 2 hands, could be a hand and a foot, could be hands and feet. Got up to 4 limbs. So 2 or 3 or 4. That's unison note. Nearly forgot how to count to 4 then. That's not a good sign, is it? And then the last one is linear. So linear is, well, it's basically the opposite of what I just said in regards to unison notes. Linear is one thing at a time that has to include the foot. So, for example, if you played right, left, right foot, that would be a linear pattern. So I'll play the first fill that we're going to look at for you now, 70 beats per minute, and I'll loop it round. And then we'll break it down and we'll see exactly what we're dealing with. Here it is at 70 beats per minute. Right, so let's look at the first half of that bar. So we've got a bass drum and a hi-hat, well, that's fairly standard for beat 1 of a bar, no problem there. Then we're going to bring our right hand off the hi-hat, usually sticks that right in front of me, I can show you with this. So we're going to go from the hi-hat across to tom 1. Then we're going to play the snare on beat 2 like we normally would do, but we're going to carry on playing tom 1 as well. We're going to stay here, and then we're going to play another tom 1. So basically what we're doing is reorchestrating 3 of the 4 notes that would have been on the hi-hat. We normally would have gone 1 and 2 and on the hi-hat if we'd been carrying on playing our groove. Now we're going to go 1 and 2 and using tom 1. Here's what it sounds like, 70 beats per minute. I'll play the first half and then rest beats 3 and 4. If you need to pause the video at this point and practice this a little bit slower, that's absolutely fine, go right ahead. So the second half of the bar, we're going to bring the right hand down to tom 3 and play 3 and on tom 3. Beat 4 is going to be tom 3 and the snare drum. And then the final beat of the bar, 4 and, we're going to bring the right hand over and hit the crash cymbal, and the left hand's going to hit the snare again. So recap, 3 and on tom 3, 4 on the snare and tom 3, and then 4 and on the crash and the snare. I'll loop this round, I'll rest beats 1 and 2, and then play beats 3 and 4, and I'll loop that round a few times for you. So let's put those two halves together to complete the fill, and we'll stick it in a 3-1 resolve as well. I'm using a fairly standard quaver groove here. Feel free to swap that out for one of your own, that's no problem. Here we go, 70 beats per minute, 3-1 resolve with the completed fill. So there's our first creative 8th note fill. I really like that fill. It looks really complicated on paper, but when you break it down, it is basically the right hand moving clockwise round the drum kit. It started on the hi-hat, went over to tom 1, and then came down to tom 3. The left hand played the snare the whole time. There's a couple of unison notes we have to watch out for, but basically one hand is doing all the work and the left hand is staying put. When you break it down, it's a really, really clever way of getting the most out of the drum kit. Why not pause the video here and see if you can reorchestrate what we've just done? Remember, reorchestrate means move around. So what happens if you move the right hand in a different direction? What happens if you start on a different drum or use the cymbals? Have some fun, see if you can take the ideas from that fill and create some of your own fills. Okay, so here comes our second creative 8th note fill. I'll play it all the way through so you can get a feel for what we're looking at, and then we'll break that one down as well. So let's take a look at the first half. It starts with the bass and the hi-hat, so the same way as we started the previous fill. This is where it changes, however. We've then got the left hand on its own on the snare drum, then the right hand on its own on tom 1, and then the bass drum. This is where we've got this kind of linear idea. It's not strictly completely linear because we've got that bass and hi-hat together, but we are linear-ish as we go snare, tom 1, and then bass drum on its own. I'll play this at 70 beats per minute, just the first half. I'll loop it round and round. Join in when you can. Okay, so the second half, we've got tom 3 on its own, then the snare drum, then the bass drum on its own, and then a unison note to finish, snare and crash. Same as before, I'll rest the first half of the bar and then I'll play beats 3 and 4 round and round. Join in when you can. Here we go. So let's put those two halves together to make up the whole fill, and we'll stick this in a resolve as well. You know the drill, 3-1 resolve, groove fill, off we go. Okay, so there you have it, two creative eighth note fills. They both had a lot going on, they both sounded different, right? Did you notice any similarities between them though? Anyone who's been having lessons with me for a while will know now that if I'm asking a question like that, it's bound to be a leading question. Yes, there are similarities. What happened was we started over here on the hi-hat and the snare and then moved around the drum kit in order, went up to tom 1, down to tom 3 and came back again. We ended on a crash cymbal. So not really a circular movement, you could say sort of more triangular, but it had a distinct pattern. The movement was the same, but we got two different fills out of the same movement. There's plenty of mileage in that idea. Have a go at creating your own fills based on a shape or a specific movement. I'm a big fan of using circles and triangles. I'm pretty sure I got this idea from Billy Cobham. If you don't know who Billy Cobham is, pause this video and go and find out. You will not regret it. Unbelievably good drummer. He talked about moving around in certain shapes. He had stock shapes that he'd move around. He'd also get his drum tech to change his drum kit setup every night on the gig so that the same shape would create different fills, which when you see Billy Cobham's drum kit setup would be an awful job for his tech because he had rather a lot of stuff, but it's a really clever idea of getting the most out of one idea. Me personally, triangles are my shape of choice. I don't have tom 2 on my live kit very often, so I'm left with this kind of natural triangle movement. So when I'm learning a new idea or when I'm looking at a new idea or trying to experiment with a new idea, I'll go to that triangle shape first. And the cool thing about a triangle is I can start it here on the snare drum and move around. I could start it on tom 1 and then move around. I could start it on tom 2. You get the idea. There's plenty of mileage in this. You can get loads of fills out of one really simple idea. Don't listen to me waffle on about it anymore. Pause the video, go and try it for yourself. Before we finish, lastly, I know this lesson is called Creative Eighth Note Fills, and that's what we've been doing. Thank you, Jason Bold and Rhythm Magazine, for giving me this idea. How about we put our own slant on it, though? What if we turn these into 16th note fills, creative 16th note fills? Well, this next one is exactly that. I've taken the final fill, the second fill that we looked at, and rather than playing it in 8th notes, I'm playing it in 16th notes. So I get 2 times round the fill in one bar. I'm going to stick it in a 3-1 resolve so you can hear what I'm talking about. Away we go. So that's it, creative 8th note fills and one sneaky 16th note fill that we chucked in at the end there. I hope you enjoyed that, guys. If you've got any questions, please feel free to get in touch. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment down below. I will get back to you as soon as I can. Stay safe and enjoy your drumming.